Okay, so first of all, I've got several photos that I've opened up here. Here's the main one with my clay thing in there. This is one that has the top surface of the material. This is one that I put, the material is this bent kind of copper, brushed copper stuff. And this, whoa, sorry, I don't know why these are all so zoomed out. This is going to be the side. And so what I want to do is mask all those areas on my actual object and then import those layers in there. But first, before we even get there, let's just clean up this clay model. So you can see, like, make sure that you're, like right now I'm zoomed in at 16% because my camera is taking very large photos. And you may size them down because right now I am at 66%. So this is 100%. And you can see that, like, we're way down into the little nitty-gritty details. And maybe this is just a little too large to, you know, for sake of working on it. But I'm just going to zoom out. You can also actually notice, do you see all that kind of color shift in there? You kind of see some red and blues and stuff. Yeah, we don't want any of that stuff in there either. So, and it's more noticeable on big flat areas of stuff. So the first thing I'm going to do is start making some selections. And there's a couple different ways to make selections. The cheap and easy way to do it that doesn't always work really well is this little brush. Can you see over there? Yeah. It's called a quick selection tool. And sometimes you can actually get some pretty good results with it. It's very smart. And what you do is you kind of drag along a surface and you see it's kind of jumping out. And it's going, okay, I'm looking for areas of similar color, and where it stops being similar, I'm going to stop. And so that actually got me to the top. But the problem with that is that those edges will be very wavy and jaggedy and stuff. So if I were doing a quick hack thing, I would use this. And at the scale that you're on, when you scale it way down, you won't see so much of a jaggedy edge. But the better way to do this is to use this, to get a real clean selection, is to use this little pen tool. And here, let's make a selection on the top. And this is where, you know, the cleanliness of your model comes in. And when you're looking at this, was this yours, Riango? You know, did you intend this to be absolutely flat, square planes, or do you want a little bit of a curve to it? Okay. Because if you look at it, it's really not flat. Like if I tried to say, all right, this is going to be totally square, I'll just click 4 corners. And you'll see, oh, wait a minute. Yeah, look at that whole top has got this arch to it that doesn't quite relate to my selection. In one sense, it might actually make it easier. Yeah?
Does the pen tool work the same way as the pen tool on Illustrator?
Yes, exactly the same, right. They're both Adobe products, so at least that was a nice thing that they did, is they kept that consistent. Now, if I wanted really flat planes, I might use that as my selection. I'm actually just going to save that in my selection. So I'm going to go over to Paths. And this is really kind of important, but when you're working on a path, you'll see it in your path palette. And let me actually also say, if your workspace doesn't look like this and you're confused, just go up to Window and say Workspaces, and then choose your default, which is just under my screen recording thing. I don't know why this thing usually goes away. I'm going to minimize it. There we go.
Can we correct it in the camera raw beforehand?
Yeah, you could do that too. Yeah, I didn't shoot on raw.
Or you shoot what on raw?
What?
Wait, what was it?
Oh, RAW is a setting where you capture more information and you can adjust it before you even bring it into Photoshop and check your lighting and stuff. I was just shooting on regular, so I don't even have that option to do right now. If you know what to do there, you can do it. If you've never done that, just shoot regular photo. So I've got my work path here, and when I'm working on this, it's just a default called a work path, and it's really important to just double click on that and name that. Because if you don't name it, and you go away from it, it goes away. But if you name it, it saves it. So I'm going to call this the top. All right. And now the nice thing is, can you see those lines up there? It's there. I can select it and the little corners appear. But if I click off of it in the path palette and click on my side view, which I've already started working on, I can switch between them, and that's really nice later to be able to go back in and say, all right, I need that selection again. So I'm going to click that off, and I'm going to do one more path. This one with a little bit of curve in it, so you can see the Illustrator-like tools. So I might start here and just drag my little handles out ever so slightly. I'm going to do kind of a rounded edge on the top. So I'm going to go with straight corners and then a little bit of a rounded radius, and then a big arc here so I can really fine-tune that, get back into here. And now if I hold down the Option key, I can change the, and click on that same point, I can change the direction, just like in Illustrator. Again, Options, get a little bit of a curve, find a midway point, get that arc, and then I'm going to come back here and click on this. Okay, so that's another selection. And I can go back in and clean it up. So if you click on your selection tool, whoops, sorry, if you click on your arrow tool and click on that path, I can come in here and usually you want to just lay your path down pretty quick and then come in here and really adjust it, get it where you want it. Now, depending on what you're doing, sometimes it's good to go on the inside. Like I'm trying not to get any of the side color in there because I'm going to blur it. And if I captured a little bit of the side, it's going to blur into my workspace. So I'm actually trying to keep a little bit in the inside of that. So I can get a nice flat plane up there without capturing this information on the side. And you know, so again, I can zoom way the hell in there and just get super nitpicky about this. And I got a little kink there because I did a shortcut. That's fine. Yeah, here's another kink. I don't want that, so I'll just see. This is when I did a shortcut where I just make my radiuses with one side, but then you have to adjust that one and this one. And see how this corner, I'm actually kind of jumping out of my frame. All right, so let's stop there. Again, finesse more, spend more time on these things. I'm going a little quick. But I've got this work path. Let's call this top 2. Okie dokie. And now these paths, if you've got it selected or highlighted, right now top 2 is highlighted. Down on the bottom, I can just click this, it's pretty much the middle one, which is a selection tool. And that changes it from a path into a selection. And now I can start manipulating. I can't really do anything with the path until I make it into a selection. So I've got that, and if I zoom in, now I'm in the path, so I'm going to go back to, I'm going to actually take channels out and just toss it so it's not in my way because I'm not going to use any channels. So I've got layers and paths are my 2 places I'm going back and forth between. So back to my layers, and I previously set this up, whoa, sorry, I'm going to pull this whole thing out just so you can see. I already set this up. I made a duplicate of the wait. And see, I already started trying this to see if it would blur out. But what I always do to start with is I just take my base layer, which is this one, before I do anything, and I make a duplicate of it by just dragging onto this little new icon, new little page icon, and that makes a duplicate of it. So I can always go back, and I'll turn one of those off. Actually, let's turn off the bottom layer one. So I can work on this one. If I really screw it up or whatever, I can always go back to my original. And then I personally, instead of making all these masks and adjusting things, what a lot of times I prefer is to actually make a copy of this piece. So I'll copy this and then Command-C and then paste it, Command-V. And you can't really see it, but it's in a new layer. And that way I can isolate things a little quicker and not have to worry about my masks again. And I can see what I'm doing to this layer. So now I look at this, and it's not too bad. It's almost an even tone, but I see lots of little nicks like this here. And so I could do this two ways. I could either come in and try to smooth these out with like this little Band-Aid tool, which is called Healing Brush, I think, or yeah, Healing Brush tool. And there's a couple different varieties of this. There's Spot Healing, Healing Brush, and Patch Tool. I like the Healing Brush. The Spot Healing will kind of automatically try to figure out what you're doing, and a lot of times it doesn't know what you're trying to do, and it guesses a little bit wrong. So what the Healing Brush is if I select somewhere, I hold down Option to make a selection. So I find a nice, good, smooth part of this. That's about right there. So I just click once with my Option key down, and that's sucked up that area. And now I go over to this little divot, and I'll just draw over it, and maybe even over here. And so first it pulls that texture over, and then it actually tries to match the color and tone of what the rest of it is. And this, let's do this on the, you'll see a little bit better.
Is it like the clone tool?
Yeah, the clone tool kind of works the same way. The only problem is the clone tool doesn't copy the hues and values with it. It just copies literally the texture. And so this is really nice because you'll see a little extra step where it goes back and it adjusts. It's like, you see these big lumps down in here, this clay? So I make sure I'm in the right layer. And that's the biggest problem with Photoshop is you're sometimes in the wrong layer. You're just not following what you're doing. Something's not doing what it's supposed to do. So I will make a selection. I'll find a good flat area about, like, let's say here. And I want to get rid of these lumps in the clay. And so now I'll just paint over them. And you can see the little crosshair over in that other place. And you want to kind of do it in little bits at a time. Don't try to do, miraculous big chunks. Now I'm going to go backwards. Undo, redo, undo, redo. The reason why is because it's sampling where you started from. So if I pick this nice flat area here and I start erasing all this, and all of a sudden I go off the edge, it's sampling off the edge. So I want to kind of choose my area that I'm working with. So I could do this a lot, just kind of keep going back and forth and Option click somewhere, wipe out all the big blemishes. But I want to go a little faster than this and not have to. And you see how like the color over here is totally different, but it's still picking up the texture. So it looks a little more natural. That actually is getting a little different. So, but things like this big booger sticking on the side, this is the perfect tool. Get rid of those first. So Option, click to make a selection, and then just paint over it and let it do its stuff. And here's another big booger. Okay. So if you get rid of the big ones, now the next step of kind of smoothing, like right here, there's also this big smush right there. So let's grab some of this and, oops, go a little lower. And the color on this is already different, so this is where sometimes it doesn't work so well because it's pulling the color from around the corner. And let's go back up to our top surface. I'm switching layers because this is my...
Wait, so if you select the side, I know you did the path on the side,
Mm-hmm.
that help it from like not taking the color from the other side?
I actually am not following you. Say again?
Because you were just talking about the other side and how it's picking up.
Oh yeah. So it's kind of looking at the general area, what the tone and the color is, and it's taking the texture and then matching it to the general tone and texture of that area. So that area had a little curve, and the tone was lighter than that side wall. So it picked up a little bit of that tone, but I'll go back in there and fix it. Don't worry too much about that. I'm gonna come back in there. So I'm just getting mostly these big things out of the way because I'm gonna do some other smoothing stuff on this, and I won't have to smooth it as much if I don't have to get rid of some really big blemishes, if I'm just getting rid of little blemishes. Like right now, you can look at this and go, okay, it's generally, there's a little bump right there. I see some kind of wrinkles going on, you know, maybe get a little bit in here. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to lock this